And we're live. Hi, hello everyone. This is the Grill with Diana and Tyson Boys. We're here with Diana Steele. She's one of the candidates, the mayoral candidates for the Edmonton elections on October 18th. And she joins us to take some questions about our priorities. So thank you so much, Diana, for doing this. What a very busy evening it's been for you.
Yes, a little, but thank you so much for having me here tonight. I'm happy to talk to you guys.
Oh, you're welcome. Now, for those who are looking for a bit more juicy information about you, what more can you tell us about yourself that people don't already know?
Yeah, so I've been a community leader for the past 7 years. I've been the president of Crestwood Community League. I have a master's degree in leadership. I also have an education degree. So I've taught everything from children to adults, and I've taught everything from early childhood to business courses. I worked at Northwest College, where I did teach business courses for almost 10 years. And then I worked for the government of Alberta for 5 years, where I developed senior leadership policies for them. And right now, I actually work for the Pilgrim's Hospice Society. So now I'm in healthcare. I've kind of done it all. But in addition to all of the things that I do for employment, I'm actually an avid community volunteer. And usually when I have some free time, that is where I dedicate my free time to, is helping out the community.
Oh, wow. And one
And
thing
I'm a
I
mom.
found, and you're a mom, two boys, a preteen and a teenager. Incredible.
Yes. Yeah.
One other thing I found about you today was that you're a Métis. And I'm
Mhm.
wondering, it seems to me like you're the only Métis candidate this time around running for mayor.
We did have an individual who was in the race. He's since dropped out, Malik, and he was also Métis.
Well, that's true. Yeah, he
Yes.
speaks. I forget. I think he's
Yeah.
even. Oh, yeah, you're actually right. So I'm just wondering what you bring. Could you please describe what you bring that other candidates do not have? Because it
Mhm.
seems like this time around there is a beautiful pool of extraordinary talents vying for this one position.
Yes, absolutely. You guys have a very difficult decision ahead of you. And what a time to run for mayor. What was I thinking? But what I bring that's different than the other candidates is I am unique in my experiences and my education. And then I combine that with the fact that I am not a politician, never had been, have been, never want to be. I am a firm believer of servant leadership, which means I am here for the people. I have no party affiliation of any kind, so no one owns me in any way. I am only making decisions for Edmonton based on the best ideas and the best decisions for our city and the people who live here. And yeah, I've done everything, like I said, from teaching business courses to being a community minded individual. I am a big fan of solving houselessness. That is my number one priority, and focusing on mental health supports. So for me, I'm bringing a style of leadership to the city that we've never seen before. I'm very transparent. All of my expenses and campaign donations have been online since day one. I make lots of videos where I share information about my private life or things that are going on that are important to the public. I'm constantly sharing information, so I'm very transparent. And I'm also very compassionate and empathetic. And I think that's important in a leader because, especially now where we have some very difficult decisions ahead of us, we need a leader who can explain things in a way we can all understand, but also with compassion and empathy, because when you have to break bad news to people, you need to do it gently.
All right, Tyson.
So one of the things we do here on the grill, Dan, is we go through your platform more or less,
Yes.
your public statements, and we ask you tough questions.
Bring
So I've
it.
opened up your website,
Yes.
and the platform is it's got seven planks to it.
Yep.
That's great. But the content here is lacking.
Okay.
So can we start off with plank number one, business and
Yes.
property taxes? You talk about you want to review the property tax system, you want to educate system. So what does that actually look like? Because that's fine, that's dandy. These are
Yeah.
big, pie in the sky. That's an ideal. But what are you actually going to do?
Yeah. So I'd like to open everything up, look at what we're spending our money on, and then again, just be transparent with Edmontonians. Every person I've ever spoken to says they don't understand our taxation system in Edmonton. And then they make references to other cities like Calgary who do it a little bit differently. And then I often wonder why we're not doing it the same way.
So how does Calgary do it then?
Well, Calgary apparently has an open, transparent document that you can go to and read anytime you want to. So I don't know the system myself because I haven't looked into Calgary, but I want Edmonton to be more transparent. And I've heard from people whenever they challenge the city of Edmonton and ask questions about their taxation documents, they're suddenly presented with 2 lawyers at a time. And so no one wants to actually challenge anything. They're terrified to challenge anything, but we should be allowed to ask questions.
I see. So, and then my one build on that is there are, like, if you do a little bit of Googling, you can find explainers on the Edmonton tax system.
Yes.
Are those not good enough, or
well,
what would you like to see in addition to that?
Yeah, they're not good enough for the average Edmontonian who, I mean, again, if you're politically inclined in any way, or if you're involved with council or you watch their meetings, yeah, you can get that information. But the average Edmontonian does not know where they can go to find that stuff. So just sharing that information with them and just making it, obvious where it is, and just telling them that this information is here, here's where you can find it. And here's what we're looking at, breaking it down for them so that they understand it. And also making sure that it is understandable. Can the average Edmontonian actually decipher it?
Okay. Hey, T, all yours.
Yeah, my follow-up question is, I hate taxes in school. When I studied it, it was my most difficult subject. And so I leave Tyson to do all the taxes. But I'm just wondering if we're comparing Edmonton's taxes with Calgary's taxes or tax system, and you don't know what's up in Calgary. How then would I understand how bad Edmonton's tax system is when compared to Calgary that we don't know? So which system would you compare our tax system to? Which is better? Is it the New York one, the one in London, Ontario, or so I need education tonight, Diana.
Yeah. So I need to understand myself. So I want to get in there. I want to have a complete understanding of the system that we're dealing with. And then I can turn around and explain it to Edmontonians. But I also need to know if we're being competitive, because we have surrounding communities like Leduc and Beaumont and Sherwood Park and St. Albert that we're all competing with. So if we're not being competitive in any way, we're losing businesses and we're losing people to go and live in other cities. And we don't want to do that. So I just need to see if we're going wrong, where we're going wrong.
Okay, so all this scene will be when you're elected mayor. Still, you get to do all the work. Of course, you'll have the most brilliant people in the city to guide your decisions at the time. Okay, gotcha. Okay,
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're throwing it back to me?
Yes.
All right, so plank number 2 is economic growth and purposeful spending. And you talk about, supporting local business and awakening talent to stimulate economic recovery. And more or less, yes, focused spending will actively supporting the Edmonton economy. Now, again, this is very vague. What are your actual action items?
Yeah, well, I hope that purposeful spending or keeping things in-house is not vague. We need to encourage people to shop local as much as possible. And I know that ordering from Amazon is super easy and quick, but we need you to keep it here in Edmonton as much as possible, especially now and probably for the foreseeable future. And then economic growth, that comes with getting the problems, the social issues under control. So right now we're facing houselessness and we are facing mental health issues, we're facing crime, and people may not want to come here and live in this city if those things are out of control. So we need to get those things under control so that we are an area self-actualized city who has reached their full potential and who has become a model for other cities to follow. And then businesses will want to set up here. And then families will also want to move here as well. And then we prosper. But we do have to solve the social concerns in order to attract people to our city.
You use the term self-actualized city. What is one like policy, or let's call it, I don't know, bylaw that you would advocate for that would actually enable that?
Well, I think that solving homelessness or houselessness would make us an area self-actualized city for sure. I can't see how it wouldn't.
Fair enough, but like, is there like a particular step? Like, what's your first step towards that?
In terms of solving houselessness?
Well, in terms of, okay, well, you can use if you're going under the category of houselessness, that's fine. What's your first step? What is your first action?
Yeah.
Be it either a bylaw that you're advocating for, or a policy that you enact from the executive side of things, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so right now we have a pretty big divide between private industry and public industry. So I'd like to close that divide and have us all work together as one cohesive unit. And in order to solve houselessness, we need to stop relying on money that isn't coming our way. So the federal government isn't giving us enough cash to solve it, and the province isn't giving us enough cash to solve it. But if we work with the private industry and convince them to follow some social conscience mandates that they may have, and work with us, they could provide housing, so tiny homes, and then we will provide the wraparound community supports. And then eventually the city will provide employment, but also private industry would also provide employment for individuals who are ready to go back to work. And then if you can solve houselessness, you can give them a place to call home, where they can lock their belongings, where they have privacy and some dignity back. Then you're facing a city that is probably reduced in crime, because now people aren't feeling so desperate. And if you're proactive and you're taking care of mental health supports, then you're hopefully preventing more people from falling into that houselessness situation as well. So that's one idea.
Fair enough. So you've kind of your third plank is end homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So you've covered that
Yes.
ahead of time. But I want to double back to let's go back to the local idea that you talked about in your second plank. What is your action item there? What are you going to do as mayor? What is Mayor Diana Steele going to do to encourage that local spending, local spending locally?
So I'm a big fan of Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, the Prime Minister there. She's quite open with her people. She makes videos all the time. She talks to them. It comes back to that transparency for me. Again, I think if you outline societal expectations to people and you are constantly saying, guys, we need you to shop local, we need you to support Edmonton business, and you are saying it regularly, that message will eventually resonate with people and they will get it. And you have to also point out about how it's very easy to order from Amazon, and those kinds of things, but that how crucial it is to keep it in-house, and then also providing them with some examples, and then leading by example as well, showing that I only support local and I don't shop through Amazon, and you won't see me getting packages delivered to my house. So those are the types of things that I would do.
Tee?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if those sort of things will be enough. I speak to business owners in this area, and I understand how critical the problem of homelessness is, but here I don't see homeless people. We have to come downtown to see homeless people, but the small business owners here complain that the cost of leasing a property is too expensive. They cannot pay for employees, their technology is slow, etc. So I'm just wondering what a mayor still will do for businesses who are not affected by homelessness as an issue. I'm just wondering when you say promote and support local business, other than shopping local, what are a variety of ideas you have to stimulate the economy of places in Edmonton, like where I live, where things may be described as just slow?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because we were on a forum yesterday with Explore Edmonton, and they said that typically we invite 6 million people a year to our city for tourism, and we are not seeing those numbers right now. So, we know that business is hurting, and we know that some businesses are going to get to the point where they close. I don't want that for anyone. But this is where a bunch of people have to get into a room, all of council and administration, and brainstorm, because I know we've offered grants. We can, continue to do that, but there's only so much money to go around. There's only we can't prop people up forever. I'd love to be able to find the bulletproof solution. I just don't know what that looks like right now.
Okay. So you also talk about waking talent in our community. Within our communities, we have organizations like Business Link, even BCW, maybe even the African Center. What more would you do to awaken talent what new ideas would you bring to the table that we're not already seeing?
Well, we have to stop preventing people from coming forward when they do, with hindering them with red tape and bureaucratic process. So making sure that our permitting processes are quick and easy and efficient, but also being open to any ideas. And I have an 11-year-old and a 14-year-old. I often joke, I've heard it all. So I want Edmontonians to come forward with great ideas. I loved the idea of the gondola in our city, and it wasn't going to cost the city any money. It was a private initiative, and I saw nothing wrong with it going forward. I mean, there may have been some land adjustments we needed to make to appease some groups, but I would be encouraging the next Elon Musk to come forward in Edmonton here and, just come up with any brilliant ideas you can to move our economy and our city forward.
So you mentioned the next Elon Musk, or let's say it's some entrepreneur with a great idea.
Yes.
How are you creating the environment for because if we're gonna use Elon Musk, that's a pretty high bar to clear. So we're talking billion dollar ventures, right?
Yes.
How are you going to encourage the environment where a $1 billion venture actually wants to come here? What's the mechanism you're going to use?
Well, I hope they're already here, and I know they're already here. They're here in the city. We have amazing talent and leaders in the city. They just haven't been encouraged to come forward yet, or they haven't been tapped into. They haven't been found, or they're not getting through to the right people. So I'm available to talk to anybody who wants to talk to me. I live that way right now. I answer all my own calls and emails, even as a candidate. And I listen to all of the ideas that come my way right now. So I would be encouraging that as mayor as well. There's not going to be 5 layers to get to me. You will be able to reach me directly. So come and tell me what your ideas are, and I'll throw it on the wall and we'll see if it sticks.
So I was just speaking to Casey yesterday, and she told me that only 2% of venture capital money goes to females in the tech industry. So I'm just wondering, the percentage in real life of women who go into the tech, artificial intelligence, and machine learning is small. What are you going to do to encourage? You just talked about Elon, that they're already here, people with extraordinary talents. What are you going to do to get women into the tech world? Because many of us are not techie. Our first degree, second degrees are not even tech related. What is a mayor still going to do to attract women to that industry?
Well, first of all, I would wonder, I'm questioning that 2%. Is it only 2% is awarded, or that's just how many people are coming forward? So I'd be interested in knowing the answer to that. But I know that tech, the number of female in tech is low, or was low. It's rising. But again, just encouraging people. And I think by having a female mayor, and I only ever want the best person to be voted in for the job, so I wouldn't want someone to vote for me just because I am a woman. But having a female lead our city may prompt other women to step into leadership roles as well. And that involves tech, because that is the future of our city. And so I would hope that just by being a leader, I would be encouraging people to take those steps forward.
Okay, that's beautiful. This is not about business, though. It's about the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. I noticed Edmonton, in many parts, did not shut everything down. The library was still open, as was the rec centers across the city. Would a mayor still shut everything down on September 30, 2022, just to recognize the survivors of residential schools?
Yes, and I was disappointed that the province didn't recognize it, but absolutely for 2022, I would be handling it very different than the city did, and we would be closing all city facilities.
Oh, thank you, Tyson.
So plank number 4 here is about family needs, and you talk about access to physical activity, community involvement for all, ensuring access to recreation centers, affordable childcare, and that's kind of encompasses what you're trying to get at there. And again, unfortunately, my same question is, you talk about the breadth of the vision, which is great.
Yes.
But what are the action items here? So is there certain recreation centers you want to see open? Do you perceive a gap in some of these services? What are you going to do when you are if Mayor Steele is a reality, right?
Yeah, so we've been waiting for the rec center on the West End to open. That's a long time coming. We need to make sure that goes ahead. We need to fight for the federal funding that is on the table for $10 a day childcare that currently our province is ignoring. So we need to get that on the table, and that would include banding together with the other mayors, because other mayors of other cities and towns here in Alberta need the same $10 childcare. And working with community leagues, we need things like we've seen with this pandemic, it has forced us to close ranks within our own communities. So having things like community gardens or access to the right kinds of playgrounds or updated playground equipment, making sure that we have more family-friendly activities. I was pleased to see that we went against the parking, the idea of charging for parking in some of our city facilities, because that would have eliminated people from being able to go to our city attractions, which are already quite expensive for families to go to. So really just trying to take care of the whole family. I am a single mom. I have 2 boys. So I am living a lot of the same lives that families in Edmonton are living right now. So it's definitely a priority of mine to make sure that they have a good quality of life here in our city.
It's still unclear to me, Diana. I'm so sorry. When you say education around diversity and tolerance, accessibility, inclusivity are topics that no longer need to be debated but acted upon, what are your action points, especially for diversity and inclusivity? How do we see that women, BIPOC, LGBTQ are included? We need action points so we can hold you accountable for when you become mayor next year, Diana.
Yeah. So the United Nations has, they released a plan in 2015 that the city signed off on but didn't action. So that's the first thing we would be looking at is instead of going back and reinventing the wheel, putting that in place. And Scott McKean, who's currently on council, has come up with an idea to create a bylaw where anyone who is promoting hate or harassing anyone in any kind of way would be issued a fine. So I'm a big fan of that one as well. And then also I am the type of leader who, again, will be telling Edmontonians what my societal expectations are. And hatred or being racist in any way or intolerant in any way is just not going to fly with me. And I think sometimes we've lost our way in Edmonton because we just aren't called out on it. And having a leader who, again, is compassionate and empathetic and can explain things in a kind way, but a firm way, is exactly what we need.
Public safety is your plank number 5. It's 1 paragraph long. So again, can you explain to us in detail what you want to do with public safety? You talk about positive relationships, the front line, wealth and knowledge, experience to share. But I honestly, frankly, this is probably your worst one because it doesn't actually even touch on the different aspects of safety and how people experience or perceive it. So can you expand on public safety for us?
Yeah, so I mean, we have lots of people who are afraid to take the bus in the city. So that again comes back to the last question, and that's typically because of racialized concerns and they're being targeted. So we come back to the fine. We need stronger policing in the city in areas that are experiencing a lot of difficulties right now, which actually is a lot of the city, unfortunately. But we do need more boots on the ground from police. And we just need to clean up the major issues that we have, which is houselessness and mental health issues. And until we can get those under control, then the safety of our city is currently at risk. And so we need to get those things under control so that we can build a safer city for everyone.
You just talked about boots on the ground. I spoke with Professor Barker yesterday, and I wasn't really impressed with Edmonton, with the EPS, because he feels that Black people are over policed. As Mayor Steele, what are you going to do to give confidence to Black people generally? And who feel they're being over policed? Let's start there.
Well, I mean, Black people are over policed, Indigenous are over policed. We do have an issue with, targeting of some certain individuals for sure. And, I'm not sure what the answer to that is right now, because while there's racism throughout any organization, I don't believe that the police are inherently racist as a whole. I think that there are likely a few racist members, as there are with any business and organization in any city. So, again, leading by example is really what I would offer, and that is not something that I would tolerate in any way. So I wouldn't expect that from the police department either.
So what sort of assurances are you going to give hijabis, God forbid, any more hijabis are harassed or attacked in the city? How would you reassure them that Edmonton is a publicly safe place to be?
Well, again, calling it out, enforcing bylaws and fines, and attending rallies with them. I have absolutely no issue with standing beside anyone who is experiencing any sort of hatred in our city and making it clear that that is not tolerated.
Oh, thank you. Tyson?
My follow-up is, it's one thing to... awareness is obviously a critical portion of making something safe. Are you going to increase police presence to help enforce this, or are you going to give them different directives? How are you going to manage the police portion of that, and not necessarily just on the systematic issues with respect to the over policing of Indigenous or Black people, but the average the everyday citizen that may not experience those things in their perceptions, right?
Oh, for sure. But I think what I would need to do is sit down with Chief McPhee and ask him what his perspective is, because I don't know what his perspective is. I have never met with him. Maybe he has an idea to solve this, and maybe he hasn't been listened to yet. So I think it starts there, a conversation between me and the police chief, and figuring out what the problems are and how we're going to solve them moving forward.
So when you start by saying, I don't feel the police system is inherently not racist, that is a fundamental statement that some people, I don't have a problem with it personally, but some people may find that it contains a hint of bias. So I'm just wondering how you would address the perception in many communities, Indigenous, BIPOC, across the city, that they can be seen, that the optics sometimes can be seen as racist. So starting, I think, with the bias that they are not, pivots you against a lot of people who feel unsafe because of the police.
Of course. I'm not taking away from their experiences at all. I'm having a difficult time. I would have a difficult time standing here in front of you telling you that every single police officer in the city of Edmonton is a racist. I can't. And I'm Métis, so I can tell you that my people are probably more stigmatized than any other racial group in Edmonton. So I feel this as well. But I don't believe that the police are inherently racist as a whole. I don't know that they always make the greatest decisions, and I've seen them treat homeless people quite poorly. That breaks my heart when they kick them out of the LRT when it's minus 45 degrees outside. I don't agree with that either. So there are lots of conversations that need to take place, but calling an entire group racist, I don't believe that that's a fair assumption to make.
Well, I'm not asking you to. There's a question here, I think. If more boots on the ground makes POC feel unsafe and discriminated against, would you still would you still do it?
Well, I mean, that's a difficult question because we have crime that's happening. We have we had a neighborhood. One of our candidates on our Edmonton council just had her garage burned to the ground with her vehicles inside and all of her campaign materials in there. That was the fifth garage that was caught on fire that weekend. There are people going around and lighting their homes on fire. So, you know, we could pull all the police officers off the city, but then people are going to turn around and claim that we're not fighting crime. So we have to find the balance between protecting our citizens while also being respectful of every single nationality in our city. And, you know, I'm sad that anyone would feel unsafe in our city. I obviously don't want that to happen for them. So we need to figure out a way to fix it. But if we could solve racism right here in this question right now, then I could probably go on to be, well, not just mayor of Edmonton. I could probably do a lot of really great things with my life. People have been struggling with this question for so long.
So it means it exists maybe, and it could maybe even exist within certain quarters of certain organizations, including the Edmonton Police Service.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the next plank of your platform is transportation.
Yes.
And we talk, and you talk about multiple transportation options to be available, work with the city, how to explore intercity rail feasibility, and then there's a platform update here that says temporarily revert some of the new transit system to previous transit routes while we work through it.
Yes.
So I take that means that you're against you oppose the previous rework, sorry, the latest rework of the ETS system. Would that be correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so what do you want to see with respect to ETS systems? What are the improvements that you have identified are critical to whatever the next iteration of our ETS transit system is?
Yeah, so it's probably the number one complaint that I get right now is the reimagined bus system has affected quality of life for all Edmontonians who take transit. And while there are some positive attributes, I think some of them, like the app, I just learned today that none of the North End has the on-demand system at all. So we've rolled out a system that is supposed to work with this on-demand busing system, but we don't actually offer it to a large section of our city. So we need to find a way to keep the things that are working, but also revert back to the things that were working in the past and find some sort of a system that is amalgamated into one, because it's not fair for someone to have a previous 45-minute commute that is now a 2-hour commute. I spoke to one woman today who travels from Millwoods to the North End. She has to work at 8:30 in the morning, but she has to catch a bus at 6 a.m. every day. So it takes her 2.5 hours to travel by bus from Millwoods to the North End of Edmonton. And previously it took her 35 minutes. So that's
okay. So you identified it, but what are you doing about it?
Well, we need to put it back to what it was before while also keeping some of the new system.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go for it, T. No. So I guess from my point of view, the old system had favored coverage over time. Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't necessarily be solving, the whole idea of it takes, someone has to get up at 6 in order to get to somewhere by 8, simply because the buses weren't as frequent in the old system. So what do you say to that?
Well, I'm not sure how someone has gone from a 35-minute commute to a 2.5-hour commute and how the bus system isn't as frequent. It must be. They must have had more, because they must have had more buses running more frequently, so someone could catch a bus at 7:55 and arrive at work at 8:35.
In this particular scenario, sure, I believe you. But in general, when the largest engagement, community engagement project done in Edmonton's history was this whole change of going from the old system to the new system. And one of the primary concerns that was iterated was they wanted more frequency. And when we went to the new system, we sacrificed coverage in favor of frequency, which implies that all of the previous system, and it is true, there was about half-hour to even 45-minute intervals as opposed to 15 now, right? So
All I can tell you is it's not working right now, because I am not the only candidate who's hearing about the bus issue. It's every single candidate is hearing about it. Every councillor, every mayoral candidate. It is the number one concern coming up.
Diana, do you go on any of these public services? Have you been on the Edmonton bus service before? Any of them?
No, and this is one of the things I talked about with the, I was at a student forum the other day, and I mentioned that I don't take public transport because I don't feel safe. And so I feel hypocritical telling people to take transportation in our city when it is not safe for them. So that's why, again, coming back to safety in Edmonton, it's one of the things I want to make sure that we have a safe city and a safe transportation. A transportation system, because I won't take the bus or the train right now. I would not feel safe.
Okay, so how do you intend, I guess I missed this bit, how do you intend to ensure that the service that is provided on the buses and the trains are high quality? How do you ensure that seniors, vulnerable people, all women, young men, everybody feels safe and remain accessible? What are the bullet points you are, how are you thinking to solve this?
Well, again, we come back to boots on the ground, which then it's a we're in a bit of a tailspin here, because if I say boots on the ground, we need more police officers, then we come back to the same question, which is, well, now we're facing profiling, and we have people who don't feel safe with more police officers around. I can say that I'm going to be more transparent and open and ask people to behave like decent humans in our city, but that's not going to be the right answer.
What does that even mean when you say you expect people to behave? Everybody's decent, we're all humans, and
of course, but we've got people who are not behaving properly at all. We have people who are not behaving properly in our city.
How do you call them out, though? Who does that? Who calls people out that you're not behaving properly?
It happens every time we see a racialized incident in Edmonton. The mayor comes out and makes a statement. Lots of councillors make statements. Prominent people on Twitter make statements. They call it out. They say it's inappropriate.
But it doesn't stop all these incidents from happening. This incident's just happening.
It sure doesn't.
Yeah.
No, so I know. That's why. I mean, it's. I can't get into the mind of someone like that, because I don't think like those people. So, it's difficult for me to know how to reach them other than using my own personal experiences on how I know how to reach them. But I don't know.
So we missed the answer to that question. Ensure high quality services. How do you ensure high quality transfer services are provided to seniors, vulnerable people, and to everybody generally?
Can you give me an example of what you mean by a high quality service?
I'm just wondering, because you said you've not been on the bus or the train before, and there's a comment here that someone's commute went from 40 minutes to 2 hours. That's not high quality, is it? So how do you ensure under your leadership that the trains and the buses will offer high quality service to Edmontonians, especially seniors, women with little children, to everybody generally? There's a question here.
Yeah, so two things. One is I want to let you know that I have taken the bus as a kid. I mean, growing up, I was on the bus all the time. And then for university, I took the train to get to school all the time. I just haven't been on the bus in probably 10 years. But in regards to high quality service, we're back now to, I'm not a fan of the new bus system, because we've gone from a 45-minute commute to a 2-hour commute. So I don't think that is a high quality service for our seniors. We also have issues with our DATS buses too. So I know seniors rely on DATS, and they can't get their bus to pick them up on time to make sure that they get to their appointments. So DATS is something that has to be we need to look at how we can make DATS function better for our disabled community and our seniors as well.
Okay. And your last plank here is, oh wait, hold up.
Oh, sorry,
How much
there's
time do
a
we have?
question.
How much do I?
No,
We
we
got
have a
20 minutes.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want your response on the now, because you're talking here about working with City of Calgary to explore intercity rail feasibility. This has been studied and explored numerous times historically, not only by City of Edmonton but also the provincial government. And every time they look at this, the most recent one was I think 3 years ago or so. It's too expensive and there's not enough traffic, not enough passenger need to go forward with this project. So why do you believe that we should continue? We should explore it again when time and time again we have shelved this due to the same studies that you're advocating for?
Sorry, can you say what are we referring to right now? Which
you're
project?
talking about the intercity rail feasibility, which what I would assume is a rail link between Calgary and Edmonton, right?
Yeah, Calgary and Edmonton and Red Deer. I don't know why it's never gone forward.
Well, the reason it hasn't is every time we do a study, it's too expensive and there's not enough transit ridership to pay for it.
Yes. And sorry, are these studies being done by municipalities or are they being done by private industry?
Because both the provincial government and the City of Edmonton as well.
Yeah, so I'm in support of private industry building this, not the City of Edmonton, not Calgary, not Red Deer. We would obviously be a partner in some way, but I want private industry to pay for it.
So when I'm talking about these studies, the probability portion is the reason why it won't get built, because there's not enough ridership. So how do you encourage these companies to build something that they won't make money doing?
Well, I think we already have a private company who is going to build it, and I'm not convinced that there's no ridership there. I guess what I'm saying is I don't believe the study.
You don't believe the study? Okay, fair enough.
Don't believe the study. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Diana. I want to take you back. There's a question here from Allison, and thank you, Allison, for being so engaged. I feel okay. So what you're saying is you feel the only way to solve the problem with incidents is with policing. I've never had problems with it, with Edmonton's police before, and I don't intend to. But I think with more boots on the ground, maybe some people may just get slightly nervous with seeing more police presence. I don't know. I'm just thinking. So how would you answer Allison's question here?
Well, what I would say is I don't feel that that's my only solution, because I had other solutions too. So I talked about how calling out and explaining societal expectations. I've talked about the bylaw officers finding people who are acting inappropriately. And I mean, we have to work together. I've talked about meeting with Chief McPhee and finding out if he knows what his, if he has an idea about what's been happening here, and if maybe his ideas to solve this just haven't been listened to. So no, boots on the ground is not my only suggestion. I had 3 or 4. But we do have a crime issue in the city. And unless someone else has a better idea of how we can manage solving crime without using police officers, then I'm sort of at a loss as to how we tackle that.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Last plank is infrastructure and sustainability. And here you talk about finding a delicate balance and meeting the needs of a growing city while maintaining existing infrastructure, due consideration to economic, social, and environmental implications, protecting our natural resources, amenities. And again, this is the same question. This is very vague. So what are your actual action items here? What are you going to do that will realize this vision?
Well, the city already has a vision to increase to 2 million people, and they'd like to keep them in the core if they can, preventing urban sprawl as much as possible, because of course, the further we go out in the city, the more expensive it becomes to maintain everything. So encouraging people to move here, but stay within the core. Protecting the environment obviously is a big one for me. I ran my campaign very differently than every other candidate. I don't have lawn signs. We did everything through marketing online as much as we could. And just building a smart city as much as we can. And the city already has a plan to do that. We have to follow it, and we have to work with developers who are willing to build affordable housing in the city. And multi-housing as well, so that we have different options. Yeah, those are just some of the ideas.
Follow-up question. You say you don't use lawn signs as a campaign choice, which is fine. Do you feel that's exclusionary to people that don't have access to technology or the older generations, which are primarily exposed to print media or and phones, essentially?
Good question. I suppose it would be, yes.
Okay.
Unintentionally, but I suppose it would be. But I would weigh that over the cost of destroying the environment, and I would absolutely make that decision again.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I want to consider what happens October 19 and you become Mayor Steele. What are the top 3 things you'd like to get done within maybe the next 4 weeks of your leadership? Under your leadership, what are your top 3 priorities?
So the first 3 things are working with administration and council to figure out how we can start to get a handle on houselessness and the mental health concerns in the city, and also a handle on crime. And I suppose it's 4 actually, because then also leading, finding a really solid strategy to leading the city through the pandemic and ensuring that we are protecting as many small businesses in our city as we possibly can.
What happens if you don't win? Do you come out of public life generally? Would you still keep doing all good work you're presently doing, the community, volunteering, and so on?
Yeah, so a lot of the candidates have, mayoral candidates have become quite good friends behind the scenes, and we've all committed to working together. So regardless of who wins, many of us have, we bring our own strengths. And I am the first to say I don't have strengths in everything. I'm better in some areas than I am in others. There are some candidates who are better in those areas that I'm weak. And we're all planning to work together to continue helping our city. We have recognized that we are in trouble. Our city, I mean, this pandemic, did a number on every part of the world. And we need a lot of really smart, dedicated people to work together as a team to solve the issues that we are facing right now.
Dan, could you please rehash what you're going to do exclusively for women? Because LCC Media is also an exclusive platform for women. And Mayor Steele, what are you going to do especially for all women?
In regards to safety, or what are we talking about here? Encouraging them to join leadership?
Yeah, in regards to quality of life, what are your targets or plans for women generally? Okay, maybe business or safety. Let's highlight that on the business.
Okay, it's a little bit vague.
Go on your platform and find a heading for you.
That's a difficult question, because I have 2 boys, so I'm all about equity and equality for everyone. I'm not going to focus on women specifically. I mean, again, I'd like to be a role model for women, because if I win, there's a number of things I'm crossing off here. One is I'd be the first Métis mayor, but also I'd be the first female Métis mayor. And then I'd only be the second female mayor that we've ever had in Edmonton. So, I think just by being in that role, I would be helping girls see what is possible, but nothing in particular where I'm singling out girls and trying to make the world a better place for them. I want the world to be a better place for everyone.
Fair enough, I accept. Many times I just see women everywhere. Forgive me, Tyson.
I'm this gendered white man. I get it.
That didn't sound right. Forgive me.
I don't care.
But anyway. I get where you're coming from. I do. We need a more equitable world for our boys, our men, and our girls as well. Thank you for helping me see that as well.
I mean, I could ask really mean questions. I'm not sure I want to, though.
I am not an expert on everything. I can tell you that my heart is in the right place. And I also am happy to surround myself with experts who know how to answer these questions much better than me. But I do bring a strong leadership skill set, and I think I'm a personable person. But yeah, I don't have the answers to everything right away. And if you have someone sitting in front of you who tells you that they know everything and that they're going to solve all of the world's issues, they are not telling you the truth.
That's fair. That's very fair.
I like your
fair statement.
honesty as well. Actually, I like that you say I don't know it all. That's really humble. So thank you for being transparent with us.
No
Final
problem.
questions, Tyson. What do you want to take? Mayor Steele too.
No, I won't ask it. I won't ask it.
No, this is the
No,
grill,
I'm not gonna ask it. No, this one's too mean.
It's too mean.
It's too mean.
Oh,
No, it
okay,
really
fair
is.
enough.
It's all you, T. What's your final questions?
Okay, so I'm just wondering. We've talked about if you do win. We've talked about what happens if you don't, and you're creating collaborations and partnerships. You're gonna carry on being visible. I'd like you to speak to Edmonton tonight, giving them the reason why they should overlook Mr. Soe, Mr. Hushry, Mr. Nicol, and give their votes to Diana Steele. I want you to talk to Edmonton tonight. I think that'll be my final question.
Yeah, what I would say is I am leading from my heart. And again, I think it's important that we remain a nonpartisan system. So I have no connection to a political party at all. That is not to be disrespectful to the individuals who are running who do have political party affiliations, but I am just here as a community leader, and I see a way that we can be led differently. As I said, as a servant leader, someone who is here to be a voice for the marginalized, someone who is here to listen to your concerns and then lead based on what you need. So I would encourage you to research all the candidates. They are all phenomenal. And as I said before, we will all work to help one another. Depending on who wins, we've all pledged our allegiance to one another. But if you want someone who is transparent and compassionate and empathetic and who wants to only ever do the right thing, then yes, a vote for Steele is exactly what you should do.
A vote for Steele. That's a beautiful ending. Tyson, unless you want to...
I got that one.
Thank you, Tyson.
You're sweet.
I am so grateful.
Also, thank you very much, Alison. Thank you, especially Diana Steele. Thank you for your time and for teaching me something. I think that is, your humility. You don't know it all. You don't claim that you do, but you're open. You're very transparent, and your heart, which I think is the most crucial, is in the right place. So on behalf of the girl, we wish you all the very best. And we say thank you so much for honoring our invitation. And come October 19th, we may be celebrating the first female mayor. We don't know, do we? So thank you again for your time. And everyone, that was The Grill. See you at the top of the hour with Shamir Turner. Goodbye.
Thank you. And thank you for the tough questions tonight, guys. And the not tough questions. Thank you, guys.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.